Nothing you want, long for, or dream of is by accident. And everything you want wants you to. Listen to my interview with holistic life coach Britt Elam and find out more. Hi, Britt. Thank you so much for being my guest on the Choose Courage podcast. I am so excited to meet you.
Hi, Terry. I'm really excited to be here with you.
Yes, you are someone that I'm very interested in knowing more of your story because you are a certified holistic coach. Can you tell me a little bit more what that means versus just a regular coach?
Sure. Yeah, I love that question. And I think folks have a lot of their own sense and maybe their own baggage that they bring to the term holistic. So I love that you've asked so that we can just kind of put it right out there at the forefront. For me, holistic really means that in my coaching style and in my philosophy, I take kind of an inside out approach to the shifts and the work that clients want to do for themselves, meaning that a more traditional coach perhaps might have someone come to them and say, I want to be a better leader. And great, let's craft our engagement around your leadership style. Let's talk about that. Someone can come to me and say, I want to be a better leader. Absolutely. But we're maybe going to talk about, where did you first get the sense of what a leader might look like? Who was the first person who showed that to you, perhaps in your childhood? And what comes forward for you as you think about that?
Mm.
And what are the thoughts and ideas that you've then associated with leadership? So rather than this looking more at the doing and just the behaviors that are external, we really want to go to the root of the question and look at things through this more nuanced lens of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being.
Oh, I love that. And it is it's looking at the whole person and everything that comes from the inside out. And it's not always what you think it's going to be, correct?
Absolutely. I think it's almost never what you think it's going to be in my experience. I don't know if that's just me or, that's the folks that I end up coaching, but I find that we start with a goal in mind. One that comes to mind right now as an example is someone came to me saying they want to start a small business. So that's what we're coaching on, is how they're going to plan for that, how they're going to support themselves, what that's going to look like.
Mhm.
And what came forward, what we ended up talking a lot about, was the fact that this individual is neurodivergent and has been struggling to navigate the world and to support themselves with their needs. And that ended up being a huge focus of our coaching. And also, past relationships and how that comes into their confidence and how that shows up. I think maybe you might be seeing a guest of mine, Mrs. Olive,
Oh,
who's joining us here. Um, so yeah, it can run the gamut, and we might start at point A and find ourselves at point L. Not really even sure how we got there, but because it is so interconnected, like you said.
It really is. And I think that's what is so amazing about coaching, and that you're adding just a wider, bigger, larger perspective with holistic. And holistic means whole, correct? So
Yes,
you're looking at
yes,
the whole
absolutely.
person, not just
Yes,
a little part. Yes.
and how all of the parts are connected. So
Mhm.
there's the idea of the whole person and of maybe the parts that make them up, and the idea that those parts act on each other. So
Mhm.
when I'm experiencing something in my personal life, that's going to show up in my work life. And when I'm experiencing something in a relationship with one person, chances are that's going to affect my relationships with other folks in my life. It's all interconnected.
It is. I agree with you. And I love that you have that approach. And of course, I've been a coach for over 20 years and I've found the same thing. It's magical, really. And some clients of mine, they only want to work on one thing. I said, well, don't be surprised. It could
Mhm.
change your whole life because one thing's going to affect everything.
Absolutely,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. And so it's
Yes.
amazing. And so that's an added bonus, really. If you're going into coaching and you just want to work on one thing, don't be surprised that your whole life can change. And what inspired you, I know, to do this kind of work? What is it in you that you're wanting to share? What gifts do you have that
Mm.
is making you be an incredible holistic coach for others?
I think the thing that comes forward as you ask that is really my values and some very deep convictions that I hold.
Mm.
I think one of the primary ones, maybe one of the foremost ones, being an element of my spirituality, that I believe that all of us came here as the people that we are at this time with the skills and gifts and interests that we uniquely have, and that we have not only a right to be ourselves to the fullest in the most authentic and abundant way, but also, frankly, a responsibility, because the world is waiting for each of us to shine our unique light.
Mm.
And for me, coaching helps folks unlock what that looks like, what their unique light is, and what it would mean for them to be shining it.
Ooh, beautiful. It sounds like you are stepping into or have been stepping into your purpose in life and what really
Mm,
lights you up. And you're shining this light for others to do the same with this work.
mhm,
And that sounds like the value that's shining through for you is
mm,
that you want everyone else to be doing exactly what you're doing in their life, finding that thing
mhm.
that makes you want to get up in the morning. But I also love that you said something about you like to say everything is made up. Tell me
Yes.
more about that.
So I am a recovering perfectionist. I say recovering because it is a work in progress. It's, a mantle that for many years I wore very proudly. I have since kind of changed my relationship with perfectionism, but
Mm.
it is still, a work in progress. So as a recovering perfectionist, I spent so many years seeking this idea of good or right or best or perfect. And that was an amalgamation of, societal influence, my own thoughts, my family of origin, right? All of these messages that we're all constantly inundated with about
Mhm.
what it means to be successful or worthy. And I chased those things for many, many years. And then I got them.
You were at that
And
level of perfection that you thought was perfection.
yes, I got the things, I got the job that I had been told would make me happy, and I had the family, this beautiful family that I was told would make me feel 100% fulfilled. All of these ideas, and one day I looked around and said, I don't know that this was really my idea. And here I am, having worked so hard and maybe not been very nice to myself in the process to get these things that I think maybe I didn't actually plan for.
Mm.
And that to me was such a big aha moment of everything is made up. The career that you're supposed to have, that's made up. The relationship that's going to make you whole and complete, made up. Whether parenthood is supposed to be the journey, made up. It's all made up, and we get to make it up any way we like. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of freedom in that.
There is a lot of freedom in that. It's a beautiful, perspective, a way to look at things that I've never looked at in that way. We choose to create, and we are very creative beings. And
Mhm.
what what I'm hearing from you is that can be either something that takes you down a road that really isn't based on you and your values and what's important to you, but maybe society, your family, or what you think others are thinking you should do, versus
Yeah.
you can also make up what you truly want to be and have and do
Mhm.
in your life based on your unique, beautiful values and something that's just unique to you, and you can do it any way you want. Is that what I'm
Yeah. That
hearing?
is absolutely, yes, that's absolutely what I'm saying. And that I think there are a lot of folks who find themselves maybe feeling like, okay, but what is that? What is that purpose? What is that thing that lights me up? I don't know. You say that
Mm,
there's this thing that lights me up. I'm not really sure.
mhm,
I'm just a person. I'm just living my life. Maybe there isn't this grand purpose.
mm,
And I think part of where folks get stuck is that idea of grand, that it
mm.
needs to be about, you know, curing an illness or, rescuing folks from lives of despair. Absolutely, if that's your journey and that's your path, that's beautiful. And it could be being the best parent and pouring into your child and teaching them of their inherent worthiness. And that's the impact that you're meant to make in the world that only you can make.
Yes.
Maybe it's striking up a friendship with your neighbor who's deeply, deeply lonely,
Mm,
and that lights their soul on fire. And that's the impact that only you can make. None of us gets to know, but I
Mm.
feel so confident that if we tap into our longing and those nudges, those subtle nudges that we all get, that we'll sort of stumble upon it whether we want to or not.
So beautifully stated that it doesn't have to be this huge thing, this grand entrance to, what our purpose is. Maybe it's a small nudge. Maybe it's a quiet little voice that's talking to you, but how do we tune in and listen to that nudge or that voice?
Mhm, mhm. I love that question. I think so. There's a quote that comes forward for me, that's adapted from an ancient Chinese philosophical text, and I won't take you there. But the modern day version of it is, "How do you get muddy waters clear? You
Ah,
let them settle. You let them settle." And
settle.
we spend so much time stirring ourselves up
Mm.
with anxiety and worry and striving, and the waters get very muddy because we're going, going, going all of the time. And you can't force them clear. You can't take the strainer to the water and will it clear. You can't push the mud down. All you can do is let it settle. You
Ah,
get very still, let it all drop away, and then see what's left.
wow. I love that analogy, and I like also the part about you can't force the timing on that, how long it takes to settle. I mean, you
Mhm,
it settles as fast as it's going to settle, but you have to actually do the work to try to settle things, right? Clear
mhm,
clear your mind or slow things down, whether that's meditation, taking time to journal, read, listen to music, any other ideas of how to help that? Because so many people have so many things going on in their head, they don't even know how to make it settle.
mhm.
What suggestions do
That's
you have?
I think so. This is a kind of a constant refrain. I definitely have some ideas, and I have also a very firm belief that folks probably have that answer within themselves. And so if someone comes to me and says, "I don't know how to settle. I don't know how to get all the thoughts to settle. You're telling me to settle. What does that even mean?"
Mm.
And my question might be, is there ever a time that things feel a little bit more quiet for you? Maybe you're walking your dog, maybe you're playing basketball, maybe you're knitting, maybe it's you're in the bath. Who's to say? But is there ever a time that you feel like things are maybe even just 1 or 2% quieter? And what's
Beautiful.
happening there?
Yeah. So you turn it around so they kind of go inward and they reflect on the answers they already know within themselves, which is the most
Mhm,
powerful way to get an answer. And that is a beautiful coaching technique and belief that
mhm,
people are whole already. And you've said that, and that's how you
mhm,
approach this holistic coaching. And what a gift! What a gift! I mean, really, to be able to sit or talk to someone on over the phone or Zoom or whatever it is, and see them as whole. How many people in their
mhm,
life have seen them as whole?
mhm,
They probably don't have very many people, and that's such a gift that you provide as a coach.
mhm.
And then
Oh,
I'm sure you get so much back from that too. And,
mm,
I know a little bit about your story that you were in, the tech world, and I think that's part of
mhm,
that road you went down thinking that's what was going to bring you all the happiness and
mhm,
fulfillment. And how did courage play a part in leaving that world and doing what you're doing now?
mm. So I knew this question was going to come up, or some version of this question. I've been thinking about it. I'll be really candid and kind of vulnerable with you. I have not historically thought of myself as someone who's very courageous.
Mm.
I and I think that's perhaps not giving myself enough credit, but I grew up in not always the most stable of circumstances. And so as an adult, one of the things that I really craved and one of the things I created for myself was stability, this
Mm.
sense of security that I had needed and maybe didn't get. And so I would be damned if I wouldn't have it for myself, essentially. And so I built a life that felt very secure.
Mhm.
And also, I I was not lit up. I was not lit up in that life. I saw these little moments, little glimpses of how it could be, but I was so scared. I was so scared because I'd have to tear a lot of things down to make space for the new. And as someone who really deeply valued security and stability, ooh, that was a tall order.
Yes.
To think about stepping away from the known, stepping away from this sense of control that I had created for myself.
Mhm.
And
And known outcome.
yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And at a certain point, what shifted, it was kind of this ongoing balance of the fear of the unknown, the fear of uncertainty, and then this little glimmer that was relatively new to me of hope,
Mm.
of possibility, of seeing that I think actually it could be better than this. I think that it could be better than this. And even though it scares me to believe that, it scares me to give that hope space to
Mhm.
flourish because that makes me feel exposed. At a certain point, the balance, the scale started to tip a little bit. And I wanted to give more energy to the hope than I was giving to the fear.
Ooh, powerful.
Mm.
So powerful.
And for me, that meant leaving my job, leaving my very secure, very stable job where I had nothing but runway and, all of the things that I thought I was supposed to have, this kind of career trajectory. And at a certain point, I really had to get very honest with myself and say, those were ideas of success that were handed to me and that I accepted without really looking at them too closely or interrogating them. And when I found a moment to do that stillness, find that stillness with myself, I found it in retreat.
Mm.
What came forward from me when the waters cleared a little bit was that my life had been so buzzy. I ran from one meeting to the next. I was constantly going, going, going. And I had been buzzing for a long time. And I realized that I wanted to hum.
Oh, so beautiful. I just thought of a hummingbird. It's so
Just,
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think of kind of frequency, right? And if you think about
Yes.
frequency in terms of, us having frequency or even just the frequency of sound, right? There was a fundamental frequency shift that was needed for me. And it took like a whole lot of courage for me to hope that it could be different.
Well, I just heard you say the word courage,
Mm,
and I think that you just answered the question from within, which you were
mm,
questioning. And I know that that act of choosing the humming and
mm,
the little speck of hope over fear,
mm,
absolutely a courageous act, even if you didn't know it.
mhm.
And I wanna shine the light on those acts for people because I was just like you. I didn't even know that I was courageous until I wrote a book about it. And I was doing a book signing, and someone asked me to give an example of my own courage, and I was speechless.
Mm,
And that's when my journey began. And so your journey is
mm,
has already begun, and you have already shown your courage, and the more that you see the courage you've already shown in your life, the more you'll count on it in the future, and you'll know
mm,
that you have it, that you can do the unknown. You can go to that uncomfortable place and feel comfortable and know that you'll be safe, that you'll be taken care of, and
mm,
that will be your grounding, your stability in the future and even in the present.
mm,
And I applaud you for sharing your vulnerable story with us because you are shining a light for everyone else that's listening today.
Mm,
you can have that that glimmer of hope when you thought everything else should be a different way.
mhm,
You led your life that way, even your stability counted on it. But you went away from everything you thought you knew or that was important to find out what you really wanted in life. And tell me, on a scale from 1 to 10,
mm.
how is your stability and your level of fulfillment in life from 1 to 10, 1 being hardly anything and 10 being full out?
Oh gosh, I am infinitely more fulfilled than I was before. I have found the work that my soul longs to do, the work that is mine to do. And sure, I it's not as stable perhaps as working for someone else. Being self-employed is a different animal.
Yes.
And the fulfillment is off the charts.
I am so happy for
Absolutely off
you.
the charts.
I am so happy and excited, and thank you for telling us how that we can and giving us the permission that we can do this too, just like you did. We can have that fulfillment, and we can be
Mhm.
courageous enough to do it. So if there's one last message you want to give to our audience and also tell them how they can connect with you, please tell us
Mm,
before we
yeah.
wrap this up.
I would say that nothing about you is by accident.
Mm,
Nothing that you long for or dream of is by accident. And everything that you want, it wants you too.
that's so powerful.
Mm.
So powerful. Thank you. And how can they get
Thank
a hold of you,
you.
Britt?
Yeah, so I you can find me on Instagram. I'm Britt Elam underscore holistic coach. I can share that with you, Terry. And from there, you can see links out to my website and to other ways to connect with me. But right now, one-on-one coaching is my soul's work. It's my heart's work. So if folks are interested in that, then that would definitely be something to reach out about.
Wonderful. We'll also make sure that we'll share all the links with our audience and anyone listening today. And if you are a little bit nervous or scared to make a move in your life, but you know you need to or you want to, and deep inside, it's all meant to be. Reach out to Britt and start that new journey today. You can do it. Thank you so much for being my guest today. Really appreciate it,
Thank
Britt.
you. Thank you, Terry. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.